What would you say it's like managing, a team? Like, how tricky is it sometimes? Because people always assume, management's super easy. You're not really doing much. You're just watching people.
The emotional side of it and then the logical side of it. So emotional side of it is to keep them motivated and make sure they're performing to the standard they can. The logical side of it, actual management side, are they hitting their KPIs, are hitting their certain targets that the business owner wants.
What was it actually like, going to university for 2 years, paying for all of that, and then turning around to your parents and saying, you know what, I don't want to do this anymore?
What my parents wanted, it was a very difficult decision, caused kind of a bad relationship with them, but I know my end goal at the end of the day and I know it will benefit them in the long run, so you just got to look at the bigger picture.
Why would you reinvest when you've already invested some of your money already into one thing? Why do you feel like reinvesting the stuff that you've made and learning more skills is actually really valuable?
If I've got the money and I could put it into something, or even if I didn't have the money, I'd find a way to get the money and put it into something that I know will help me and get to my goals.
Yo boys, hello and welcome. This is going to be the first podcast we're filming. I'm joined with a bunch of killers, to be fair. I'll let them introduce themselves. We've got George over there. George, tell them a little bit about yourselves.
Yeah, I'm George. I'm 19 from around the Manchester areas. Been appointment set now for about 3 months. Just recently moved into manager. Oscar's been helping me a lot with that. So about a week in. 9k PIF last week. So
easy. Straight into it. Saad, do you want to introduce yourself?
Of course, I didn't get a 9k PIF, but I've been getting a few PIFs. So I've been working with Superior Sets for over a year now. I do full-time closing, a bit of managing as well, and some coaching. I'm 20 from Manchester.
It's got joined by a few money boys. We're on the other side, clearly.
Yeah.
This is Oscar. Go on then.
Yeah, so I'm Oscar. I run a sales agency and also management course, offer owner myself. And yeah, help out some of the boys from Superior Setters to move into management, take those next steps, and then help them along their way through the agency to land their clients and make sure they're doing well as well.
So we're joined by everybody. Weirdly enough, we don't have anybody with us that's actually even setting anymore. Everyone's sort of graduated past setting, I would say, each, doing their own separate things and very different days and very different calendars as well. But everyone loves what they do. So we're joined by the full house then, basically. We've obviously got George, who's setting and is coming on to setter manager. We've got Saad, who's closing and potentially a business owner very, very soon. I'm an offer owner myself, and we're also joined by Oscar, who is an agency owner. So you're going to get a full insight from everybody and sort of the A's to Z's on almost everything coming into setting, everything past setting too. But I'll let the boys, I'm going to start with George, I reckon. So George, you've been setter manager for how long now?
A week nearly. Yeah, last Thursday, so 6 days.
6 days.
Brilliant.
You've already jumped in. You've got a PIF. You're getting money in through the door.
Well, I hired one of the boys onto it, so he's doing really well.
So you're cooking up. To be fair, Oscar was telling me in the car, smashing it already. Better than most people.
Great stuff on the course. Yeah, you're really, really killing it already, George. So yeah, we're really happy with how you're coming along and how you're doing.
Yeah, good man. But I've just been hiring you all the time, to be fair. I've been utilising you because obviously you know a lot more than me. So your help's kind of took me quite a long way with this. So I do appreciate that.
100%.
So George, obviously going from setter to setter management, what was like the main change for maybe anybody that wants to do that in the future or thinking about doing it now, to be fair?
The main change really is you're not really in the DMs, you're kind of just looking over them. And, there's little things. It's not just making sure the DMs are right. It's making sure everything's being tracked, where the conversations are ending, trying to figure out, which little bits can, stop the conversation and trying to figure out why people are ignoring or doing things that, you don't want them to be coming across. So it's kind of just fixing little things to get over the edge and make sure these people are jumping on calls, they're properly qualified and they are closing.
Yeah, to be fair, I mean, everyone's sort of doing a little bit of management in their own sense, everybody here. So I was going to say for like you, Oscar, as well, and for Saad, what would you say it's like managing, a team? Like, how tricky is it sometimes? Because people always assume, management's super easy. You're not really doing much. You're just watching people. But
yeah.
I mean, Oscar can tell you from today.
I mean, yeah, it's not the easiest job to do in the world. You've got to make sure that relationships are kept. Like, you have got to be their friend, but at the same time, you've got to push the business forward. So you've also got to take on like a business and offer owner mindset, so you know exactly what's going on every day through everything, but also understanding that at the same time you've got to maintain a good enough relationship that people are going to want to work for you. You don't want to be that guy that everyone hates because you're trying to gain respect that way. You've got to make sure you're friendly enough, but also hold the authority in a way that you can actually get work out of people, and they're not just going to say they're doing something and you have a look and they're not actually done anything.
Yeah, I agree with all. There's like the emotional side of it and then the logical side of it. So emotional side, like Oscar mentioned, keeping people motivated, because teaching isn't the hard part. Like, information is easy to learn, but it's just more like consistently implementing that information to the degree where, they'll be performing well. So emotional side of it is to keep them motivated and make sure they're performing to the standard they can. I mean, like Oscar said, building a good relationship is important. Then the logical side of it is more, the actual management side. Are they hitting their KPIs? Are they hitting their, certain targets that the business owner wants, you want as a manager as well. So it's about finding the right balance and kind of making sure, you give them fire to make sure they're consistently working. And as well, like, okay, is what I'm doing, the way I'm managing them, the way they're doing stuff actually working? So there's two sides, like looking at it from a close point of view and then like an outside point of view. But I think it's a really good skill to have, managing.
100%. It's very worthwhile, and it's something you can carry on into then other things. So like I've taken my skill from setting management into growing out an agency now where I can hire full setting teams and place them onto my clients' roles. So I've then got to oversee from the outside perspective more than from the internal perspective and understand exactly what is going on.
So, I mean, George, you said you've been setting now for a couple of months. Why don't you take us through from the very first time you even heard about setting to, where you are at the moment and get
Yeah, so the first time I actually heard about it was probably about a year ago. So I actually did reach out to Tom, about this time last year, yeah. And God knows where I'd be now if I actually went ahead with it, but I didn't, which, was stupid of me because, where I could have been now, I don't even want to think about because I did eventually join. And
What actually held you back a year ago?
I don't really know. I kind of thought, like, putting myself into these things, like, I've always wanted to make money online, but I think just trying to, put my money somewhere that, into someone that I didn't really know kind of scared me, but like as soon as I did it, I was happy that I did it, and I've never really looked back since. A big part of me joining was kind of my mate Charlie, another one in Superior Setters. He's doing really well now. He's actually out in Thailand with Lennon. He's a good friend of mine, known him a long time in my life, and he was telling me on holiday when we was together that he's making this much money, and I was like, well, I've got to get on this, if you can do it, I've got to do it. So I reached out to Tom, got myself started, and then not looked back to ever since. Best thing I've ever done.
Yeah, and I was going to say, funny little thing is, your brother came in yesterday.
Yeah, brother, close by Saad.
I was going to say, run that through. How's that sort of come about? Has he seen you? You've told him, or?
Yeah. So we were speaking on the weekend. We've been speaking quite a bit about it, and he obviously knows what I've been doing and stuff. So he's interested in it because he was in the same situation as me. We work the same job, still work the same job. Obviously, it's not something I want to be in the next few months. But he's the same. He doesn't want to just sit around working for someone else. At the end of the day, he kind of wants to do his own thing, have that financial freedom, and just live life how he wants to. So we had a conversation yesterday, and basically he was like, right, who do I message? How do I get this done? He messaged Tom. I told Tom he was on his way, and less than an hour later, he was in the group.
36 minutes, by the way. I was counting. 36 minutes he was in and closed. But no, massive things to come. And then obviously where you are at the moment. So what's sort of the plans moving forward? Where do you see yourself in, 3 months, 6 months, maybe?
Yeah. So I am still setting at the moment. I've got a setting role and a management role. So the plan for the next few months is, keep going on my management roles, pick up a few more, and eventually just full transition into management and, get rid of setting and then see where management really takes me and see where I go from there, really.
100%. No, that sounds sick. Nice one, George. I mean, we've got Saad, who's had a pretty fucking mental story, to say the least. Why don't you go through that and run through that?
So I actually started off in medical school. So my whole thing was to be a doctor, maybe be a heart surgeon, whatever type of surgeon, just earn a lot of money, not really focus on that kind of the doctor side of things. But quickly into the degree, I realized, like, fuck, like, this is going to be my life. Like, working in a hospital, being in that environment, obviously everyone's dying around you, so it's kind of a fucked up environment to be in. But as well, so one thing I noticed is whether you're making like 300k a year as a doctor or like 40k a year, a normal job, you're living the same lifestyle. Like, you take your family on a few holidays a year, although one, if you're earning more, you'll take them on a nicer holiday. But, like, it's the same kind of like rules and within like the rules you can do. Like I said, a few holidays a year, maybe even same wife problems, same kid problems. But what can you do to kind of like get yourself out of that kind of like, same lifestyle? My main objective, like, again, involved with Superior Setters was to kind of find like, a way out, you could say, which a lot of people want. But for me, setting was always the best place to start because, like, it gives you such a good insight of like how the back end systems of businesses run. Because at the end of the day, to reach those 7 figures, 8 figures, you've got to be a business owner. Starting off like in the back ends and also getting paid for it is really important. I've been on the managing side of things as well a bit now. But yeah, I mean, that's been my journey. I've actually dropped out of medical school now, which is crazy. It was probably the most difficult decision because it was still a risk because although I still feel confident with the skills I have, there's no set pathway. Whereas medicine, like, you're always going to be in demand of like a job.
So Saad, I was going to say, why don't you expand on that? Like, what was it actually like, going to university for 2 years, paying for all of that, and then turning around to your parents and saying, you know what, I don't want to do this anymore?
Man, it was crazy. Like, up until the age of 19, 18, when I got involved with this, my parents' whole dream was for me to be a doctor, be able to tell all my aunties, uncles, Saad's a doctor, like, he did really well. But then for me to kind of almost flush that down the road, because they don't understand this at the end of the day. And that's a problem a lot of people have as well. They want to get their parents on board, but the number one thing they should do is look at their parents' lifestyle, what they're currently doing for work. Will they give them advice that will actually be useful, being the person they want to be, or will they give advice useful to being like, similar to what their parents want to be?
Yeah.
So I think going against what my parents wanted, it was a very difficult decision because, it caused kind of a bad relationship with them. But I know my end goal at the end of the day, and I know it will benefit them in the long run. So sometimes you just got to look at the bigger picture.
100%. So like on that point, if you were trying to explain appointment setting to say someone our parents' age or, who doesn't know anything about it in like a short sort of sentence, what would you say it is?
Setting appointments for high ticket businesses, which is a business that sells a service above £1,000. Because if you're selling something above £1,000, you're not going to sell it over a Shopify link. You're going to sell it over a sales call. So appointment says just book appointments, inquire on that service, and they usually get a commission based off the sales call that's made.
Yeah, I would always say think of it as you're the middleman, you're the Airbnb, you're the Spotify. You don't physically own the product or do it. You're just the middleman that connects the people and, qualifies the people that want to do it and the people that, don't want to do it to the other side. But yeah, cheers for that, Saad. Why don't you introduce yourself, Oscar, sort of talk about your mental last couple of months?
Yeah, so my name's Oscar. I've only actually been in the space for 4 months. I shouldn't probably say only because the past 4 months have been literally full steam, haven't stopped, haven't had a chance to breathe in the past 4 months. So for 2 of those months, I was still working my job. I was a manager of leisure centres. Really enjoyed it, but knew that there was more out there for me. I knew that I'd reached probably the end of my goal, end of the road with like my goals and my ambitions within a business. So I knew that I needed to try something new and try something that I actually had passion for now. And with pretty much, there's no ceiling in this space. That's why I really got excited by it and got involved, because I knew that if I got in as a setter, which took me a little bit of convincing, took me a couple of months to go through the actual setting and closing process with Saad. Saad did close me in the end, though. Congratulations. But yeah, I knew that like I could get in, I could start off as a setter, really enjoyed my time as a setter, learned how to DM set really well, had a long time in B2B phone setting, and then realized that I needed to make a transition. And that transition came when I was out in Bali. I took that big leap, quit my job, booked a one-way flight to the other side of the world, and went out there with only really one goal, and that was to improve myself and improve like my business etiquette and everything to do with the high ticket space in myself. And found myself in a really interesting position where I was able to make a transition into management, literally less than 3 months into setting. So less than 3 months in, I was able to develop the skills that were necessary and needed to move into management. So instead of thinking about a time frame issue, like, oh, I've only been doing this for 3 months, I had enough cash collected behind my name. I had enough experience. I knew exactly what I was doing and had confidence in the fact that I knew what I was doing. So decided that now was the time to make the next step and really experience what the other side was like. And obviously it's quite lucrative making that next step when you're ready. Obviously, if you make it when you're not, it's going to hold you back. But when you are, it's really lucrative. And I was able to make my first 10K month by moving into management. I moved into management, and within probably 2 weeks, I'd made, best part of 6-7K. So I was able to really push myself forward. And now the standards are so much higher. I'm able to understand that there's a lot more out there for me. And I'm really trying to focus now on not working these 18-hour days where I am literally stuck behind my laptop all day, every day. And building out the agency has allowed me to do that by not offboarding work, but overseeing from an outside perspective and trusting in the people that I have trained up to be able to perform and really do their role right so that my role runs smoothly as well. And it really, really has changed my life, this whole space. To be honest with you, I would say 3 months. Like 10K, if you're earning 10K a month, that's 120K a year. 120K a year is the dream for like maybe some of our parents. Not people that are 20 years old, sat literally anywhere in the world. But when you get in this space, you do lose like relativity of money and you always want more. Like now it's building to the 20K months and it'll be the 50K and then 100K in a month. And saying that out loud now, it does sound kind of crazy, but I know that it's all feasible.
Yeah. To put it into perspective, average salary, what is it, 30, 33, 34 grand? 36 grand a year?
Yeah.
2 grand a month, maybe. I know it sounds probably like we're being like dickheads talking about it like that, but I think most people get into the industry just wanting, a couple of grand, a little bit of freedom, probably like most of you watching this, but you don't realise actually how far you can take this. And I think that's a massive misconception that probably quite a lot of people have, and there is a bit of a stimulus around it.
Yeah.
They want to come into it, they want to make a bit of money, and then they see what happens to, for example, people like Oscar, and they realise, okay, I can start actually, taking this a lot further than I thought, and you never know where it's going to go. It sort of spirals.
I think, definitely it spirals. You kind of get caught up in it and the ball starts rolling. But the big thing that I've seen between setters that make a few grand in their whole lifetime as a setter and those setters that really do well is the whole mindset of, you can either come into this and think, oh, this is a side hustle, I'm going to earn a little bit alongside my job, and then maybe eventually down the line I'll transition. They're the setters that make a few £1,000s. That's it. Or you can come into it with the mindset that I had and George is having now, like, I've got to get out of this job. I know that setting's the way forward. I'm going to do everything I can. Like, I remember coming home from work days and I'd be dialing. So I'd get home from work at 3, I'd get some food. By 3:30, I'd be dialing. I wouldn't stop dialing until probably midnight. Like, it does like harm your relationships with some people. But if they're on the understanding that, look, this is something that we're doing, I'm doing it for me, but I'm also doing it to give back to you in the long run. Like Saad said about giving back to his parents, you can give them the life that they maybe want, but can't have at the moment. And you've got to understand that it's going to come with sacrifice. But those guys that go and really want it, really work for it, and genuinely you see their lives change because they've gone at it at 100 miles an hour. It all leads back to the same saying of, if you give something like 80%, you'll get 20% back. If you give something 100%, you'll get 120% back, because that extra 20% and that extra added conviction really drives you home and really makes you the person that you want to be. And you've got to have that mindset from day one. There's no point sitting around saying like, oh, it'll take me a week to land a role. Why don't you land a role tomorrow? Like, anything can be done today. Just do it. Like, genuinely just get out there, do it, make the change, and learn from people around you.
The difference I notice between someone that does super well and someone that does, average within the setting space. So average within the setting space is like, 2, 3, 4K a month, which is still nice. But the difference I notice is those that come in with the mentality of like, oh, appointment setting, it's a side hustle. A side hustle is like, when you sell sweets back in school, just something for extra bit of money. They don't view it as an opportunity that can change their entire life. Like Oscar mentioned, it can give you a pathway to fully give back to your parents, change your life, for generations to come as well. The people that view it kind of less than that, it ends up being that for them. Like, that's their reality. Setting is just that extra, 1, 2, 3K a month. Whereas those who view it as like a ticket to like, resculpt their whole life, they're the ones who really kind of like excel. And like Oscar said, like, go at it with 100 miles an hour. They're the ones who really take this opportunity to wherever they want. So I think that was a really good point.
Yeah, definitely. I think that the people that actually go at it and attack it, like, you look at some of the guys that are doing the best in the community at the moment, you've got to understand that those people have made sacrifice. Like, it might mean that you don't go out on a Friday night, but realistically, you've just invested into yourself. So why would you still go out on the Friday night and pour more money down the drain when you could be sat at home learning the skills, joining the group calls and understanding that, right, there's a better life out there. Someone teach me how to get to it, because that's the mindset you've got to go at it. Is you've come to someone for help because you need help and you want to live the life that not necessarily they're living, but a better life than you're living at the moment. Understand that you are going to have to take time, learn, and actually put into practice what you're getting taught, and really, really refine the skills.
Exactly. And I think a really good point that I want to bring up and mention is, I was going to say, I've had quite a few people say this to me. Why do I need to invest into myself? Why do I need to pay for something? Like, why can I not do it on YouTube? And I imagine Saad's probably got 1,000,001 things to say on this. Like, why do I have to financially commit? But I'll come over to George, and, he's done it, just a couple of months ago. What was like making that financial commitment like for you, and did it help in any sort of way?
You could learn it on YouTube. You could. It would take you longer, but in the community, there's like 100 lads in there, all wanting the same for you and things like that. And when you're in a community like that, people just learn off you. You're learning off other people. Like, there's people that have been in your situation and they want to help you at the end of the day. Like, I've been here 3 months now, and I see like the new boys messaging me, and I'm like, if you do need any help, message me. I'm happy to help, because I was at that point once and I didn't know what I was doing, so I need to help these guys out, and then it'll just keep going down. But a big thing is like the opportunities. Like, people know that like superior setters, like if they need a setter, that's a go-to. A lot of people are going there. Like, these opportunities are coming through every day. There's like 5 coming through a day, and they're just being shifted out to all these boys. And if you can get on these offers and start really learning, but then again there's group calls like 6 7 days a week. They're learning. Like, it's not just you watch this and you get on with it, and they kind of leave you in the dark. Like Tom, Lennon, Saad, Oscar, all these people, they'll jump on calls you and they'll go go through stuff with you. It's not just learning the content, it's actually putting it into practice and getting these people to help you to put it into practice.
Yeah, and George, I mean, you've just invested into me as well on top of this now. So if you want to like dig into like, why would you reinvest when you've already invested some of your money already into one thing? Why do you feel like actually reinvesting the stuff that you've made and learning more skills is actually really valuable?
The end goal for me isn't, just to be set as, like we say, it's, 2, 3, 4K. And, that's nice. And if someone would have told me 3 months ago I was going to be making 2, 3, 4K on my phone, I'd have been so happy. But like, I look around, there's lads making way more than that, making 20, 30, 40K. And like, they've got the same access to me, they're doing the same things as me. So that's where I want to be. So 2 to 3, 4K was nice, but like, I don't want that anymore. I want to be pushing for like these 20, 30K months, and obviously seeing what Oscar's done in the management space, and it's something that I was, always interested in. I think I'd be a great manager, and I have started now, and I am doing really well. The reason I did invest is because I didn't want to wait around and think, I'll do it in 2 months, because then in 2 months, imagine the progress in 2 months. Like, I've already done it before. I put it off. Like, I joined in July and I messaged Tom in October. If I'd have started in October, God knows where I'd be. So I'm not like thinking about my money anymore. If I've got the money and I can put it into something, or even if I didn't have the money, I'd find a way to get the money and put it into something that I know will help me and get to my goals, because it will eventually. I've just got to put the work in.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting point you brought up there, George. Like, saying that you wish you would have invested ages ago. I think that's a big thing that people are holding back on now, is they're saying, I've missed the rush, I've missed the opportunity the first time round. But you'll speak to anyone in this space and they'll tell you the same thing. Like, the best time to invest might have been 2 years ago, but like the second best time to invest is today. You need to get involved and like actually think about where can you push yourself and what's going to be the best route to push yourself there. And that's a really important thing to understand. Like, you can't get to the places where you want to be if you're not surrounded by the people that are doing what you want to do. And being part of a group like this, you look who's sitting around the table now. 6 months ago, half of us weren't even involved in this space. And today, me and George are here, sat here now. 6 months ago, George was sat in a sales job. 6 months ago, I was sat in a management job. Both of us unhappy. We're now sat in Manchester, traveling around the world and being able to do this through the power of high ticket sales. And George brought it up as well. We all have the same access. We've all got a phone. We've all maybe got a laptop as well. And we've all got a Wi-Fi connection. Even if you don't have one at home and you just use your data, you've got data to start with. But you can go down to a cafe, use free Wi-Fi. Everyone's got access to Wi-Fi and something to access Wi-Fi on. That's all you need to get into the space.
Everyone's saying there is a perfect time. There won't be. And you'll look back, for example, in a year from now saying, I wish I started this. I wish I started this. And I'll give you a perfect example. When I wanted to get into, making money online, I signed up to a guy called Callum Carver's email list. I read the emails for about a year. I never took any action. I was going to say, a year on from that, I went through his YouTube again, didn't take any action. It took 2 whole years, and seeing people in my neighborhood, people that I was close to get into online money, made me actually, okay, I need to take this to the next level. So for example, if you sat down and you're watching this YouTube video, at least you've taken some sort of action, but you need to think, what's going to be the next step after this? Am I going to doom scroll off this, or I'm going to get back into bed and, go to sleep and forget about it? Or are you going to reach out? Or are you going to do more research? Or are you going to take some notes and do the next logical step to getting to the closer goal that you want to be?
Back to your point of like why people should invest, because information is readily available online, right? Information's everywhere. ChatGPT, books, Google, everywhere. The main reason people should invest is implementation, because you could learn everything about appointment setting. You could role play with ChatGPT. You could know what you're doing as an appointment setter. You can know how to sell really well, but to implement and monetize this skill set is a completely different world. Like, you could have the information to know what everything is, like what it means to be stoic, what it means to have a certain type of I don't know, philosophy or like ideology, but to implement it within your own mindset is a completely different story. Same with setting. To implement, monetize it, it's completely different. And as George mentioned, that's why with the community, we've got sickest opportunities, especially now we've got people like Oscar, setter managing, killing it in the game.
Opportunities, literally every day. I'm seeing them. I was going to say, my phone is being spammed as we speak from the group chat. Constant opportunities coming through that people need setters for.
And I think that's one of the biggest things that people like worry about when they get into the space is like, what happens if I can't get hired? What happens if I can't find a role? What happens if I can't make money off the back of this? The other day, I had that many roles to hire from that I couldn't like justify doing the time to do an interview for every role. So I did a group interview for like 4 roles, but that's what I've got available, like coming through me per week, like 4 or 5 roles that are available to anyone within the community. So yeah, realistically, it is the implementation, like Saad said, and it's the fulfillment of your side. If you can learn everything, but now you're struggling to find opportunity or find roles or find not necessarily for even finding roles, because you can go out and find roles in free Facebook groups, but most of the time they're going to be roles that are going to maybe make you 100, 200 pounds, and you're going to be sat there afterwards thinking, why am I doing all this work? Like, I'm working 8 hours a day and I'm ending the month with maybe an extra 100 quid in my bank. These roles that we push forward, not only do we hire the right people for the roles, but we hire the right roles for people, because we understand that you might have been in the community for 2 weeks, so you need a beginner role, or we might have seen somebody set in before and think, oh, that's really good, I'm going to put you forward for a really good role. And you've got to understand that it's having those people that can offer you stuff like that. That's what's really important about joining something and like investing in yourself, to have those people around you and surrounding you with the right intentions to push you forward, not just themselves and help themselves.
Exactly. And I think having a financial commitment not only helps, you get the information, you get the value. Like Saad was saying, you can get that anywhere. You can earn appointments and you can probably get all the knowledge, if not more knowledge, on ChatGPT, off YouTube. But having a financial commitment, having people around you, changing your environment is the one thing that will help you excel. I was going to say, when I went over to Bangkok, I went over to Thailand, and I was seeing people make, 5 times what I make, 250 grand, 300 grand in a month. Like, it's ridiculous. Like, 200, 300 grand is mental alone in the UK. That's, probably what, more than a doctor would make?
Yeah, in a year.
Easily. And these people are making this a month, and they're the same age as me. They're not intelligent. They're not bright. They've started this in a year, and they've managed to scale this to this position. Obviously, they're smart to some degree, but it just goes to show sometimes you've got to take yourself out of that current situation that you're in and put yourself into this new one where people are doing so much better than you. It's like, for example, being in the room. If you're the smartest in the room, you're in the wrong room. You need to constantly keep learning, more and more. The more information you can stack, the more information you can bring to the next person. Another thing that I was going to bring up is we had a really interesting group call on Monday, I believe, and sort of the concept and the theme was that, people constantly asking for handouts is, quite a common thing. And, I'll probably do the same thing if I was new. But for the people that, are in these positions like Oscar, like George, Saad, the people that maybe are in management positions or been setting for a while, we'll have these roles available. But if you just say, look, hey man, do you have any roles? You're not bringing anything to the table. You're not helping them or benefiting them in any sort of way. In fact, you're hindering them. They've got to go out of their way to find you something. So, I mean, George, what would you say if someone, came to you or, approached you, hey, look, do you have any roles? What would you say to that?
Well, I wouldn't really entertain it because, there's got to be something out for both of us at the end of the day. And, if you're coming across just saying, oh, can I have a role? I'm probably not going to give it you. But then some of the boys, will actually make conversation with, I speak to a lot of the boys every day. And I see, there's lads in the community that, they're on every call, they're speaking to everyone. These are the type of people that I'm going to look to give roles because they're actively trying to learn. And the people that, I don't see showing up on calls and, just see a role come in, they're jumping on every opportunity, but they're not doing anything to earn that opportunity. You're going to have to message these people to get them. And if they're not seeing you actively, trying to get better, jumping on these calls, speaking to them and, actually trying to interact with all the boys in the community, then you're just not going to get one because, there's only so far superior sets can take you at the end of the day. You've got to take action to actually get where you want to be. And if you think you're just going to get handouts, then it's just not going to happen. You do have to actually reach out, learn and actually speak to these boys, and then they'll actually see the effort you're putting in. Be like, actually, George over there, he's really working hard. He's speaking to me a lot, asking loads of questions, and this is the type of person that I want working with me or working under me because I can tell he really wants it, and they're going to put the effort in and they're going to learn. They might not be the greatest setter, they might be a beginner, but with what they're putting into it, I can make them a great setter. You've just got to put yourself out there and actually take on what is in front of you and implement it.
Yeah, I think a lot of guys in the community don't necessarily take a full advantage of what's been given to them, and you see the people that jump on every call and always get involved in the group chats. I'm not saying you got to be on there 24/7 or be on every group call a week. Best believe I'm not. But the guys that actually get involved and give back to the community, they're the guys that are going to get pulled forward and pulled along with the community instead of being left behind and left just to be, you've joined a community for a reason. Be involved. Get actually in and amongst people.
One thing that I've had quite a lot on Instagram polls is people asking, how do I find that first client? So this doesn't really matter regardless whether you're in a community, you're getting training, or you're just doing it yourself. But if we just go around everybody, why don't we just give each other one piece of advice? George, what would you say to someone?
Yeah, so for me, the best thing to find a role is not through outreaching. For me, I think it's actually through, outreaching to people that are, they're not offer owners, but people that are like managers, like Oscar or growth ops, or people in the in communities, you can see they're clearly doing high ticket sales, reaching out to these people because they have access to these type of roles, and they're more likely to respond to you because they've not got 100,000 followers, and you can actually, have conversations. If you're speaking to these people all the time, there's likelihood is if they know you're a setter, they'll be like, oh, actually, George is a setter. I've got a role for him here. He seems very keen. He's been telling me what he's been doing, reaching out to all these people. So these people are going to look to put you on roles, even if you're not in a community, but you're just reaching out to loads of different people on Instagram, then eventually you will get a role from one of these people.
I think George is right. The best way to find roles, if you're like not in a community that's putting out opportunities, is to connect with people who aren't the offer owners but are in contact with a lot of offer owners or know a lot of offer owners. Maybe they're in a big network themselves, and just actually be friends with them, like become friendly with them, maybe build a lot of rapport and trust there, because if they're then struggling at any point to find a setter and they know that you're quite good, but they also know that you're a decent person and they do trust you, it's going to be so much easier to get hired. But yeah, just connect with people that are big in the space is what I'd say. And don't connect in random ways. Just actually be friendly with them. Ask them a question about what they're doing. Don't necessarily glaze them too much, but don't send them a random loop.
I agree as well. Like at the top, networking is definitely the best way to get clients. But let's say you're focusing on pure outbound. Be smart and also put yourself in the shoes of a business owner. Like if I'm a business owner making 10, 50, 100, 500K a month, and I see, Instagram, with no profile picture, some chopped bio, like, would you want them setting for you? So think in the shoes of a business owner. Be smart as well. Do things other people won't do, like, checking meta ad libraries for like coaches that are running live ads, getting their Facebook handles, reaching out to them, because firstly, if they're running ads, they're taking their business seriously. Secondly, they're gonna have like a load of leads for you to work with as a setter, meaning you can make a lot of money.
That sort of stole my point, to be fair, but my main point was, if you're reaching out to somebody, a client, somebody potentially that you want to work with in the future, you need to orientate yourself, your personal brand around what you're doing or what you're coming into. So for example, if it's fitness for a lot of people, that is quite a common role because, there's so many fitness roles out there. But how are you sort of fitness orientated? How do you match the same sort of vibe? If I'm sat, at my desk and my Instagram's just, me there and I've got nothing else on it versus, if I've got an active Instagram, I've got a healthy lifestyle, I've been to places, I'm in the gym constantly. It just straight away shows, one, you're an actual person, you've got some humour to you, you actually live this life. But also two, you can build more trust with that client. They get to see you straight away and it's not just, this blank Instagram with nothing going on it. And you get to, connect to them straight away.
Yeah, and I think a lot of guys are like really worried to change around their Instagram and stuff. Maybe they wonder what people think, or they're in a job at the moment and they don't want people to know. But at the end of the day, you've got to think about yourself in like 3-4 months' time. What would the 10K a month version of you do? Would they worry about other people's opinions that they work with now that are sat there unhappy, maybe stacking shelves in Tesco's, making 1.5K like we were talking about earlier, Tom?
Yeah.
Like you could sit around and worry about the opinions of those, or do you actually put yourselves in the shoes of an offer owner and worry about their opinions? Like someone that you aspire to be like, someone that's making 10, 20, 30K a month. Do you worry about theirs? I think personal branding is a big thing that holds people back. If you don't nurture your personal branding from the start, you're gonna really regret it by the end. So the first thing I do is clean profile picture, clean bio, get rid of like any major pictures of just like you and your mates dicking about, drinking, smoking, anything you shouldn't be. Just like get rid of everything and make it real professional, real clean. Maybe chuck up a few highlights of places you've been traveling. Maybe you in the gym, because I know that a lot of guys that want to get into this space are big into the gym as well. Like commitment to all areas, and show that you are able to build something. Like just put up anything. It doesn't have to be sales related. Just you in clean pictures, and make sure it's you as well, not someone else.
Just essentially think of it as your CV, because this is what you're using to apply for all, these offer owners. And these are jobs at the end of the day. I was going to say, people commonly get, Instagram confused with, I'm going to have a doom scroll. I'm going to catch up with my friends on social media. But at the end of the day, it can be used as a tool. People make millions and millions, billions of pounds every single day through it.
I think people don't realize that it is easier to find a job on Instagram now than it is to find a job on Indeed or things like that. We live in a generation where our age people, it's easier to get a job appointment setting on Instagram than it is to get a job in McDonald's. Like you're more likely to get rejected from McDonald's than appointment setting.
And I actually got rejected from McDonald's.
And look at this guy now.
I got rejected from McDonald's and now he's fucking crushing 10, 15.
So where would you be, Saad, if you got approved by McDonald's? Where do you reckon you'd be? Or do you reckon that was like a good stepping stone for you to make it work?
I would have never been a Mackey's. I was just like a part-time job, but still, that would have See, like, you don't let those self-limiting belief factors hold you back. Getting rejected by McDonald's doesn't mean, a top business owner is going to reject you to be their setter or closer. But yeah, like Oscar said as well, like, it's way more simple getting a role online than it is even getting like a job nowadays.
What would your biggest piece of advice be then, Saad, to like someone who wants to find a job? Maybe let's just go, say job online, not even setting, closing, whatever, just finding a job online. What would be your biggest piece of advice?
Literally just taking action, because obviously to have a job in the first place, like, you need certain skills developed. You can't go into a job completely clueless of what you're doing. So taking action to develop the skills, taking action to have the connections with the right people to get the right jobs. Everything you need to do just requires action, because a lot of people suffer within their own mind. They like overanalyze everything. They're like, okay, fuck, so I have to, approach this angle of learning this skill and also connect with these people, find a really good client straight away. Within a month, I have to make 20K, right? People just overanalyze everything and end up not even doing anything. Literally just taking, a step, just trying something, messaging someone, it's all free. There's no harm in that. So I think literally just taking action is definitely the first thing.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you there. I think that people hold themselves back because they're too scared to try. If you know that this is the life that you want to live and you know that there's a way forward for you to do it, the only person that's going to be damaged by you not trying is yourself. Like, you're just going to hold yourself back and you're just going to be in the same position. Like, you could try and it could fail and you could end up in the same position, or you could not try and you'll still end up in the same position. So whether you try or you don't, you're not harming yourself in any way, other than if you don't try, you're going to still be stuck and there's no chance of you getting forward. The main thing that you want to do is drive yourself forward, and the only way to do that, like Saad said, is to try, take action.
Because like, worst case scenario is in a month, like, you're in the same position you were a month ago, but you've got a lot more knowledge. You know a lot better people, and like, you have a better idea of how to be in a position you want to be, which isn't even like that's a worst case scenario, and that's not even a bad scenario.
Coming back to Oscar's point that I was going to jump in on earlier, talking about the Instagram and the personal brand, I get there's a massive, stimulus, like people trying to be nonchalant these days. Like, I remember when I first changed up my Instagram and I started posting on TikTok, I don't think people actually realise it's quite a big thing to go from, having nothing on your Instagram, not showing your face, having girls follow that you probably like and thinking, what the fuck is this guy doing? And this is like a little story. I was checking out my girlfriend's apartment today and, I was meeting the real estate agent and he comes up to me, he's like, I know you. And I was like, I don't think you do. I don't live in Manchester. And he was like, I've seen you. You post TikToks, don't you? And we just had this like amazing conversation about setting with this complete stranger that I've never met before and potentially could be a lead in the future. And it just goes to show the power of social media, the power of personal brands. You think the best people out there making, millions of pounds. You don't judge, like, for example, Cristiano Ronaldo's Instagram. You don't judge Mr. Beast's YouTube channel. Nah,
not at all. And the same thing happened to me as well. I went to buy a new car the other day, walked in, first guy was an older gentleman, just completely dismissed me, A, probably because of my age, and B, because of the way I was dressed. I was in joggers, hoodie, just kind of drove past, thought, I'll go in and have a look, maybe book a test drive, see what I can get. Second guy came up to me, he was busy doing something, couldn't really take me, and he had a client coming in shortly afterwards, but I knew that he'd seen my Instagram, came straight over, served me well, treated me with respect, and it's that personal brand. It will extend further than just finding roles. You'll hold more respect and authority wherever you go, whether it be buying a house or apartment, whether it be buying a car, whether it be someone notices you out and about in your local area. You become a different person because you become the person that you are in the space in a normal setting. When I go to the shops, no one's going to know me as Oscar, the setter manager, Oscar, the agency owner. But if I post about that on my Instagram and build my personal brand around that, people know me as that when I go out and about now. So it's like swings and roundabouts. It's whether you want to be known as that or not, you become that person in your daily life as well, and you're able to really hold that authority and be a completely new person.
Like the personal brand, like to dissect it essentially, obviously it is just a personal brand, but you've got to think of it as a business built around yourself. You carry yourself in a certain manner. You create content in a certain way. That's your way of doing it. That's no one else's. That's unique to you. And for example, when we said we're thinking about the future, what you want to go on to do, whether it's setter management, whether it's closing, whether it's putting on your own offer, you can use your brand, you can leverage it. That's why I say it's so important to so many young guys, especially when they get in setting, to document it, record 100%. Their first, sale, record their first bit of money, their first close or whatever it may be, to look back on it in the future. And that's something that I wish I did and wish I started earlier, because I did all this setting and, I did a bit of closing and stuff like that before I even had a solid personal brand. And I was going to say, if I could go back to that and, document it the whole way, you could have seen the progression the whole way. And that's something that would be so, so useful in the future for anybody that, wants to move on and basically just do bigger things past setting.
Yeah, I think the main stopping point and the main roadblock, bottleneck, whatever you want to call it in the road, when you get 3, 4, 5, maybe 6 months into setting will be your personal brand. No one will take you seriously if no one knows what you're actually capable of. It's not like in the real world where you hand over a CV and someone goes, ah, shit, yeah, you know what you're talking about. Your Instagram becomes your CV. That is exactly what offer owners see. That's exactly what business people see. And if it doesn't correlate with who you actually are and what you're capable of doing, no one will take you seriously.
Obviously, we want to keep it 100% transparent with you guys. So, like, sort of an update where we're all at. So, we're on track for a 25k week, which, you know, saying that at 20 years old is
Crazy.
pretty mad, considering that's, you know, most people's yearly salary. And then, you know, you're coming in and doing that in a week with a business is, you know, ridiculous. I was going to say, Oscar, you want to share some light on how you're doing so far?
So this month, I've just crossed the 10k mark so far this month. Should be on track with when comms come in to probably hit somewhere near the 20k mark this month. 20 to 25k I'm hoping for.
Big numbers, big numbers. What about you, Saad?
I
You're a
haven't
numbers
tracked-
man.
I haven't tracked. Okay, I'm a numbers man, right? But I haven't tracked any
Oh, it
other
sounded like excuses.
value, which is bad. But
Where you sitting at? Tell me.
it's gonna be that 5-figure again, I reckon. So
Five
it'll be
figures,
good. But
easy.
I'm aiming to try break into like 15k, 20k mark consistently during
Yeah,
like
that'd be nice.
2026. So
And what about some of the closing side of it? Like, I mean, you've been taking a
This
ridiculous amount of
I'm not
closing calls this week. Like, how many have you had yesterday and today?
yesterday, I think I had like 6 calls.
6 calls.
Day before a lot as well. Even tomorrow we've got like PIFs lined up. Like, our follow-up structure is really good to let us, maximize the amount of cash we're collecting and the people we're helping as well, which is super sick. So we've just got like this business that's like evergreen now. Like every day we've got cash coming in. And like Tom mentioned, 25k a week, it's ridiculous.
Numbers. Go on then, Sir George. What have you got lined up for
I don't
us?
know where I'm at for October, to be fair, but I think over the coming months, I've not yet hit the 5k month. I think that's very, very close to come. I think it'll be by the end of this year, and then I've got offers lined up and things like that. Could potentially take me to that 10k month, and so on as I keep moving over into management and keep picking up clients. I could push past that 10k and keep going, and obviously see the way Oscar's grown. That's the direction I want to go in there.
So what do you reckon is like the one little bottleneck maybe holding you back from being at 5k at the moment? Like, what do you need to add on or improve on?
I think I wouldn't say it's much more improvement. I think like I've got a management role now, and I've been in it a week. I think I should already be looking for another one.
I think you got to burn the boats, George. I think you got to quit that job.
So
Yeah.
What is it? The job that's holding you back?
I think you need some more time on you.
Yeah, it kind of is. So, for example, today, like I work from 8 till 4, and then, from kind of 4 till 1 a.m. I'm setting. So, like, I'm sleeping like 4 or 5 hours a day. But the aim, I'll say it here because I'm so confident that I'll do it. The aim is to have a notice on the 1st of December. That's something I really want to do. I actually set. January was the goal when I first started, and I never really thought I was going to do it. I thought it was just going to pick up a few thousand, but when you see like the boys doing this and traveling all the way, I was like, I want to do that, and I can see like they've got the same thing to me. So I was like, I will do it, and I know I will do it because I'm putting into practice what I'm doing, and it's coming, and I know it'll come. So I've just got to get there. But yeah, the job's going soon.
100%. Everybody that I've seen, for context as well, that's left their job, they've got rid of it, they've handed their notice in, have done well. And that's the thing, creating that, false, not false sense of security, but creating that,
Plan B.
There's no plan B.
There can't be a plan B.
You can't fuck this up. Like, I had to step away from my apprenticeship. You obviously stepped away from your job.
Yeah. I mean, look, if we look at people like in the community who are doing absolute bits, still setting, look at George, who's doing 10k months from just setting. George, when he joined the community, said to Lennon, look, if you find me a role with a 1k base, I'll quit my job tomorrow. Lennon found him a job with a 1k base. George quit his job the next day. And George is now probably one of the highest performing setters in the community. So you've got to look at it that way. If you hold yourself true to something and literally make sure there's no plan B, your only option is to go full in with setting. And like we said before, when you go full in with setting, it does work. You just honestly create the lifestyle that you've always dreamed of.
A lot of things, I mean, you're even a victim of this, right, George? A year ago, George could have started, but you could agree, whether you started a year ago, whether you started, 6 months ago, when you actually did start, like back in July, right? It was always a hard decision.
Yeah, it was a hard decision because, at the end of the day, I'm putting my money somewhere. I've never done that before,
Would you say delaying that decision came with advantages or disadvantages?
Definitely disadvantages because at the end of the day, if I'd have invested in October, I don't want to think about where I am now. But the best thing I ever did is actually invest. Like if I'd have put it off again, I'd have just set myself back even further. I'm 19 and making money online. That's the best thing about it. And like I'm happy that I did it. it's a shame that I didn't do it in October, but I'm happy that I did it and I didn't put it off, another 6 months, another 12 months, because, I've took that step now, I'm implementing it, and, I'm on track to quit my job, being able to have that financial freedom and actually, start traveling the world.
A really good point that I want to go over is, what do you boys think about AI, setting, closing, where this is going in the future? It's a bit of an interesting topic. We were having this debate in the car on the way here.
Yeah, obviously, when I went out in Bali, I met one of the guys that's running an AI setting. I think what we got to look at it is that AI will never replace the great DM setters. Maybe a few years down the line, we're looking 4, maybe 5, it will fully replace guys that aren't so great in the space, but those that are properly trained, know exactly what they're doing, and are absolute dogs and killers out there in the DMs, will never be replaced. Some outreach methods even need human ways. AI will never be able to do it. And you think about phone setting. How's an AI gonna phone set? There's no way that it's gonna sound human enough.
To replace deep human interaction, AI is not at that point yet. If you speak to an AI, you can tell I'm speaking to an AI. You can't really connect with them. Whereas let's say, if you speak to a setter or a closer, you're able to build a connection with them.
So what I think one thing that I'll say is, like Oscar was saying, 4 or 5 years down the line, 5, 10 years, it might be a possibility. And I'm not going to say, it is or it isn't, because we don't know yet. AI is developing incredible speeds. ChatGPT wasn't even a thing 5, 10 years ago, and now look where we are with it. But I think what I will say is, think about where you want to be 4 or 5 years down the line. Will you be clear from setting? Most people, if they were to start today, or they're, well into it, they'll be way further ahead. They'll be, agency owners. They'll be, managers. They'll be in positions that, can't be replaced by AI. And that's the exact way I think, a lot of people do need to look at it.
You'll be the ones employing the AI instead of the people that are getting replaced by it. So just pre-position yourself. That's the thing, you could put this off for a few years, a few months, because you're scared that AI might overtake you. But if you do that, then you're just giving AI, however long you put it off for, an advantage, a head start. You could be in and out in the time that you worry about it. For myself, I was in and out of setting within 2.5 months. So you could do the same. There's nothing stopping you, because you have exactly the same opportunity now as I had when I was starting out. The opportunity is there, you just got to take it.
Well, I'm pretty sure that concludes everything. I imagine if you're watching this video, it's probably fucking quite a long video, so I appreciate you staying to the end.
Yeah, Jesus Christ.
I think all of us boys have had a blast. We had a pretty good conversation, I would say so. If you've enjoyed it, drop this channel a follow. I was going to say I will continuously be uploading more and more videos because it needs to be done. I was going to say I'll drop all of these boys' Instagrams and, if YouTube's by the time they have them with this video in the comments. So go chuck them a follow, and I was going to say they're going to be loads of juicy stuff coming out on there, the unfiltered bits.